Hello, everybody. Welcome to another New Directors Dialogue with VLAB's Youth Jury 2024. My name is Valentina, and I will be here assisting with translation if needed. We are joined today by Felipe Esparza Perez, Director of Open Sky, as well as the Youth Jury, which is coordinated by Ana Tonso. Before we begin, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge that our festival and the work we do takes place on the ancestral, unceded, and traditional territories of the Hunkaminam-speaking Musqueam and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations and the Squamish Nation-speaking Squamish First Nation. We believe that having access to the languages of our ancestors and communities allows us to stay connected to culture, and at VLAF, we are super proud to be showcasing over 11 different languages from the region that is now known as Latin America. We hope that you can join us for the screening of Open Sky, which is taking place on Thursday, September 12th at 2 p.m. at Cineworks, and on Saturday, September 14th at 4:15 p.m. at the Cinematheque with Felipe in attendance in person. So I hope that you can join us for the screening on Saturday, September 14th. Our 22nd edition runs from September 5 to the 15th in multiple cinemas in downtown Vancouver, so check out our full lineup at vlaf.org. We would also like to take a moment to thank our funders, Canada Council for the Arts, British Columbia Arts Council, City of Vancouver, Telefilm, Creative BC, STIR, and Canadian Heritage. And now I'll pass it on to Ana. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you, Valen. My name is Anna. I'm the Youth Jury Coordinator here at VLAF, one of the many beautiful aspects of this festival. The Youth Jury is formed by the selection of 22 Latin American film students from across the globe, but mainly from Latin America and Canada, who join us both online and in person for activities and discussions, such as these dialogues with directors of the New Directors and Competition section of our festival. Our amazing 2024 Youth Jury cohort will be in charge of delivering the Youth Jury Choice Awards for the Best New Director competition by the end of our 22nd edition. We have Felipe Esparza Perez here today with us, the director of Open Sky, Cielo Abierto, one of the films in this section, and he will be also in attendance at the screening, as Valen said, at the Cinematheque. He's the Peruvian director behind this beautiful project that explores the relationship between father, son, and the ways their traditions and experiences intertwine through a generational and cultural gap. We're very happy to have you here, Felipe, today. And we already have some hands raised, so I'm gonna give it back to our youth jury now, starting with Ricardo Garcia.
Sorry, Felipe, would you like to say something?
No, I would like to say the title, normally I would like to translate in open pit, like it's more related with mining, because the idea of cielo abierto in Spanish is related with like a mine who, when you make a hole, you say like mina cielo abierto, so have like a different meaning. And I think it's difficult to have these both significance in English, I think probably, but just to say something.
Yeah, interesting. In translation, we always lose something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here with us. And I wanted to ask, first of all, congratulations on your selection and on your film. And I wanted to know how much of a script you had. I'm from Brazil, and there's this famous saying from a famous Brazilian filmmaker back in the 60s, which is like camera in hand and an idea on your head. So I just wanted to know how much was that kind of process and how much was scripted.
Who was the filmmaker who said that? Just
Glauber Rocha.
Yeah. I think the idea of the film started, of course, with the parallel between these two materials, but and we got the founding of the Peruvian Ministry of Culture in the section of experimental films. And in this section, you don't need a script. So the thing I normally do is to have just cards with scenes or the situations like I would like to portray in a way. and then after I met Johnny, who is the main character, and then after I met this Peruvian poet called Moises, who is playing the son of the Cantero, and hearing the stories around the place, the quarry, I think I started to create this plot that actually the film, the first idea or the genesis of the film is actually the parallel between these two materials. Like in the beginning, I wanted to be more abstract, but then the two characters were part of the landscapes in a way. So I wanted to create this kind of simple story around. So originally it was not script as a traditional script, but then I wrote the scenes like they were with the flexibility to play between them in the editing, because I didn't want to have the linear way to tell a story to A to B. I wanted to explore more between something in Spanish I like is a beautiful word called elucubración. I don't know how to translate that, but it's es como divagar. It's like inviting to the spectator to connect and interpret it in different ways, no? To surprise. So that's why I didn't want to close the film in since the beginning, since the script. That's the way I work, I think, and it's more challenging sometimes and more messy, but it's that's the way I like it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Ricardo. Up next, we have Nicolas Yanten.
Hi,
Hola.
Felipe. Thank
Hi.
you so much for being here. I think your film it's really powerful and visually stunning. And I'd like to know more like your vision on the generational gap and age gap, not only between your characters, but in Latin America, because I think Latin America here, we are considered like third world. So it often the themes on movies deal with some conservative things like conservative characters or conservative societies. So how do you see the generational gap in Latin America through your film? That's my question. Thank you.
The generational gap of the characters, or the generational gap of my interpretation through cinema of some situations
Of your characters,
Uh-huh.
because I'm interested on your vision, like outside film in Latin America, of the generational gap and how that is portrayed on your film.
Yeah, I think the film have these two parallels, like are the kind of the old ancient way to work with a material who is holding some kind of post-colonial or like a religious beliefs in a way, and the center of that city was built by this material. So the parallel, I was interested in the parallel and the two generations in a way to establish some kind of a middle point between them, who is like the consequence of religious influence, or like mixtures of religion and pagan, like magic way of thinking. They are things like are moving, but at the same time they are solid facts of what we believe, or how we build our society, are not just beliefs. I think so. To bring from the old material to kind of a new one, who is I mean, in Peru they don't do that, to like in the church they don't recreate the interior of the church yet, but it's a way to point in that possible future, pointing in that that tradition is still there and is not como no es simple, like it's not just a simple belief. I think it's more powerful than that. So that's what I wanted to bring in the and at the same time, I think there's something about like contra contra narrativas. Like I don't know how to translate in English, but a counter narrative that is trying to portray places without the same need of showing with a dramatic plot, but with the same strategies like cinematical or like narrative, visual narrative strategies like we probably adopt from another like Hollywood or whatever, how we can portray these kind of things without following it, no? I mean, there are many examples in Brazil, in Colombia, and each one tried to make their own version of it, I think. Because if we don't create this counter narrative of something like we believe, personally, I believe like there's some like in Spanish I can say como the consequence of the colonialism in general like seems really old, but actually still there in many ways. So if we in my work I try to go against the interpretation or like the representation of what we supposed to show as filmmakers from Latin America, no? And I think that generational gap in a way helped me to get out of this, because it's like drones and like digital images, like photogrammetry. I think that give you, in at least in a simple form, and a way of independence from another way of portraying or trying to interpret different forms of culture or like religious expressions or even dramas, no? Like there's another film in Peru who was shot in the same place, and it was, some people tried to relate it with my film, but actually they're completely opposite, I think. They play different games, I think, you know. One tried to open and to give you space to think about it, and the other one is just compact and close. It's just like a soap opera kind of, no? Like have an even different function. I'm not saying like the one is bad or good. I'm just I think this counter narrative, trying to change the narrative, I think is the thing like I'm interested in. Maybe I'm a little bit slow in English, but I would like to speak it faster.
Yeah, I love your answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Nicolas. Don't worry about the speed. We're all good here. Nuria, you're up next.
Hi, Felipe. Good afternoon. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I guess you kind of beat me to the point, but maybe we can talk a little bit more deeply about this topic. But I guess I wanted to ask you about how do you think your... I'm sorry, my cat is just singing the whole thing up. How do you think your cinematic language, your cinematic form addresses this colonial legacy that comes up during the film? Is it how does it establishes a dialogue with it, or does it confront it? What was your intention when dealing with this huge legacy that, like you said, it may seem old, but it's probably more present than we like to think?
I think I tried with just I like I mean I like to be in the place before the shooting for a long time, I was working with Johnny, and we create a relationship, and it was nice because he didn't want to perform to be the quarry worker who knows like there's people doing documentaries about it, so they perform sometimes. So I found Johnny, and Johnny didn't want to pretend that because he's not part directly of the association of these people. So I think all the time I spend with Johnny and in the spaces, I think there is something like it's built before the shooting that is like simple gestures or simple shots or just the hand or just something like it can activate something on me, so I would like to share it. Like there's some simple things like it can represent something more, not through words, no. And so that's the challenge for me. So that's the way to I approach to this kind of it, because even it's I like to see it in that way. I don't know if the same way, but in a way it's really baroque like a film, but it's because the whole imaginary of how we got these religious ideas is through baroque. So in a way it's just using the same forms and transform the same forms of these like ecstasies of images who have these churches to point in, like to try to minimize and to point in something simple. When I frame with that person who I work, is Fernando Criollo, is like a photojournalist, and for example in the church it was just sometimes probably at the end it's more clear what is the intention of like como desamparo, no? Like like a feeling of abandonment, like God never answer even if you try. Probably there is a clear intention there from my part, then I don't know if it was a good idea, but in any case, there's just these simple gestures, like when the people go to pray, and then when you cuando te arrodillas, how do you say cuando te arrodillas? When you knee on the, I mean, there's these fractures in the in the fabric that I found it really beautiful, because it's just an exercise of hope, you know? Like or belief, like that I don't analyze from the personal way of like who believe or why believe or not. It's more like historical how that affect our society, you know. And then the photogrammetry, I think it was initially it was not the character, it was just it was Johnny, just the cantero. But then when we were in the church and we were doing the photogrammetry, who is like taking pictures like one by one, and then overlap, and to do the photogrammetry there were like probably 15,000 photos. So doing this, we started to think like this work is actually the same. It's the same, like you need to have the same patience than Johnny, who is working the stone like really slow. So then I decided to have the other character, because the parallel was kind of more, I felt like it was more complete between these two. I feel like probably there are holes if you see the film as in a traditional way, as a like with a plot with 3 acts, and you need to evolve, and you need to and the silent on the film, I think it was, I mean, I allowed myself to have so much silence because it was un luto, ¿no? Como un, like, how do you say luto? Someone can help me.
Breathing.
Yeah, exactly. So the gestures, I mean, the face and the gestures are the ones for me who bring the emotion behind, no? The emotion like we can project on the characters. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I answer your question, but I try.
Thank you. It was really interesting. Maybe I will ask you more things later, but it's really interesting listening to you.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Nuria. Up next, we have Carlos.
Yeah. Hi, Felipe. Nice to meet you. I have here a question. It's a weird question because it's not actually like a proper question. Let's go through it. So it goes like this. It's always good to break the boundaries of cinema. Personally, I believe your film exists between worlds, between documentary and fiction. I know this isn't a concise question, but could we talk about a bit about this idea?
Yeah, I think that's other thing that as some, I mean, I'm more interested in the language itself to analyze how the language impacts us. I mean, the cinema, the visual. So to make some kind of tricks that can confuse the audience, I think it's more challenging. I mean, I like to be confused in this way because I mean, in the films who make me confused because they activate something like that is not activate when you are taking like by the hand for a filmmaker. So I like the accidents too. So in that way, I think to try to put in a fiction, because I think the film is, if we try to separate, I feel like the film is a fiction, but then the form it takes with really observational, like, and make you feel like the characters are real and all these things that we believe, like how we interpret the images, probably is confusing, and the film was taken as a documentary in some places, but then in another ones no, as a fiction. Maybe it's for me a way to get rid of these boundaries. At the same time I'm doing it, so the film speak about this too in another layer, because it's not sometimes it's not so clear what you're seeing if he's I mean the sun is not working that photogrammetry for real. Johnny is a real Cantero, so sometimes the process of shooting it was just follow. He was directing me like we need to do this and this because this is the process, and I was like, okay, so I will use this. I will use the portrait of your work or the process of your work to adapt another story, like it's talking about something else that is not necessarily specifically your work. Yeah, and I think there is something between documentary, like both approach. I think not just even in the way the film is finished, it's more in the way even the production, like the pre-production even is like we were just 4 people in the like the whole team, so it was really easy to be kind of around him and around the space without installing a circus, you know, like a big production. And I got lost. And yeah, and yeah, and I don't know. It's not ideas like of course they were already. Chantal Ackerman was saying like I mean any fiction have some kind of documentary, and every documentary have kind of fiction depending on how you look at it, no? So in a way to create counter narrative, I don't know how to pronounce it, but like contranarrativas, I think to destroy these fixed ways to look at images is part of my interest, I think. maybe it failed. Maybe the film is just like a fiction, like doesn't challenge that, but at least that's the way I try to connect with it. Yeah, I think I hope, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was interesting hearing that in some festivals also your movie was considered like documentary and in some others fiction. That's like, yeah,
Yeah,
I love
I
that.
mean, I prefer to see it everything as a fiction, but
Everything is a fiction, yeah. The first
I mean,
documentary is a fiction, so
yeah, I mean everything is a fiction at the end, no? But probably depends of how you judge the images you are seeing, and or how suspicious you about what you see. But yeah.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Carlos. We're going with Victor now.
Hi, Felipe. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for the movie. I had an amazing experience watching it. It's a very beautiful movie. And my question to you is, you have a very interesting imagery narrative that you create. You have like very few dialogues when you have it. And having said that you touched upon a lot, how was your process on creating the sound narrative that you also have in your movie? Because you have this layer that we slowly get to understand with the black screen and the sounds that create this kind of prequel to what's coming next, or just in the background as we're seeing something. How was your process on deciding that and deciding what to show? How do you approach that?
Thank you for the question. I think the sound, I try to do my own sound design with ideas of what I would like. I take like direct sounds, and then sometimes we do Foley, and then sometimes we do another like archival, like I have in this like many kind of sound. But I think the point is, for me, is like the sound can get you can transmit another narrative in parallel that probably is not just going with the image. No, I mean the sound have the same power, and paying attention on it, it can capture you in different ways, I think. So one, I think that's like this continuity and this and the collage. How do you say the collage? Como like the not synchronicity of the sound and what you are seeing, that created a space. Like for me, it can bring like something poetical in a way. So it's a jump. You're not sure what the feelings of mixing the things are. I mean the worst I can do is being sure like the sound and the music I choose are the music like everybody think like this is the music for romance, or this is the music for tragedy, or this is, I mean that's it's already there, no? What, we don't need to step on that like more. So I think this continuity is something like I try to not to use even in the sound, and then I try to build it while I'm editing. I'm not like editing first and then go to the sound and give it to someone. I think I edit doing the sound by myself too, and then I give it to someone to fix it properly. But it's part of how you create the narrative, I think, and the atmosphere and the density of the film without putting necessarily a drone. No? I mean, it could be, and the beautiful thing in this film is was like the quarry. It have all these big walls, and even being there, it was another planet because all the echo. I mean, all the like the sound of the hammer of the it was like bouncing through all these like walls. So it was it was just amazing, and I was trying to recreate that in more isolated way because there were many sounds around. So I mean, between the isolation of sounds and the simplicity of wind are like simple elements, no? Yeah, I think that's how I work the sound, I think, because I don't know what more to say about it, but there was something beautiful in one festival in Brazil, that there was one of the jury who told me, who watched the film without the video, and he still understood what was happening. I mean, that was beautiful. That was the best comment you can have for someone who is actually thinking about the sound, is that like the sound itself, it can transport you to a place without words, or without like someone telling you like we're in a bar or something, no? And make you imagine, probably. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for-
Felipe. Up next, we have Nuria again.
Hi, Felipe. I was thinking, right, when you were talking about um, filming your character and that he was directing you, I was also thinking about the editing process. And I wanted to ask you, how did you work around this material that wasn't filmed in a traditional way, that it was an experiment in its own, and particularly how does your editing process is related to these other living processes that have constructed this footage? How do you keep that flame alive, and um, cómo no dejas que la computadora te fría y
Mm,
te limite, ¿no? Como esa flama.
yeah, I don't know, because I probably in another moment of, if I mean, I edit the film, but then I was showing to some people to don't get lost, or to don't get like crazy, because edit your own film is but we didn't have money, so there was not another way. So I think probably if I edit that same material now, it probably will be another film. So I don't think there is a clue. There is a clue of. I think I really edit from like a place like it's really visceral or emotional. So even if the film seems really not structured, but like classic in the form, or like the framing and the time. Yeah, editing is the most blurry. So I don't know how to answer it, because editing is probably for me the most blurry one, because it's the place who probably you can jump in to atmospheres or places. Like if you edit, I edit films, like I worked editing films, and then when the films comes with like a proper script, like the dialogue needs to be like that, the film is done. It's just you just need to know what the intentions you need to give to some actor with like 2 or 3 seconds more, or blah blah blah, or another gaze, or but these films are more difficult, or I mean for me, but at the same time more challenging, because you enter in like a zone, like there you have many opportunities. So how I decide, I have no idea. I have no idea. Probably in the beginning of the film, in the beginning of the editing, I try to organize all the footage from the logic of the process of the work. That was one way to start, maybe. But then when you cut everything, I mean, that doesn't need like you have a film, no? I mean, the logic process is not necessarily a film. it's more like the emotions you need to transmit with. So probably I'm thinking in the atmosphere when I'm shooting, so that helps to create the atmosphere, even if I don't know if I will choose that image or that another image, or even sometimes are cuts that they are really like they can like pueden desorganizarte, ¿no? Como perderte. But there is something too, like I don't remember which filmmaker was saying that, but like el panal de abejas, the bees, like if you take el panal, I don't know if you someone heard about it, but if you take el panal and you move it like 1 meter, the bees are not going to get lost because they know it's not so far, they're going to come back there. And then, but if you move it 5 meters, probably some of them are going to get lost. But if you move it 500 meters, they are going to get completely lost. So I use kind of the same system. Like it's really beautiful when you edit like this, like how much of this, my imagination of how these links between images, it can make you feel lost completely or make you connect other things. That there's something like it can be open between these two images. So that's something between like there's a dialogue between someone who's watching the film and me thinking like someone will connect it in that way. Sometimes people like get lost, but I would like to be challenged in the films I watch. So if someone give me things like probably I will get lost in one point, I will try to figure out where is the place or what was the intention. It's not, I don't think it's accidental, no? I think I will get rid of the blood now. Like if I see the film, I will get rid of the blood and another shots, but it's finished. I don't want to touch it.
Thank you, Felipe. We're gonna go with the last question for today from Diego Minor.
Hola Felipe, hello Felipe, perdón,
Hola, Diego.
teniendo problemitas de cámara y de, I'm just in a really bad space for talking right now, so sorry if it's a bit noisy. But yeah, no, I really liked that you talked about the simil between the digital work and the handcrafted work of the stone. That was a very interesting aspect of your movie for me because I've done work in digital before, and I never thought about how similar the process of digitizing a church was to actually building one. And I thought that was very interesting. And also, something I found very interesting about your film is how you're talking now about deliberately stepping away from the traditional 3-act structure, the traditional way of, or I guess Hollywood-esque way of telling a movie. And my question is like, because your vision is so specific and it's so non-traditional, how was the pitching process to that? Like, how would you find explaining the movie would work to other producers, to other filmmakers, and how did that go?
Yeah, I think you need to explain it. Probably I explain it through images, no? It's like creating a photo, like a photo book, like of photojournalist or something. That sometimes the combination of one image of the other image and one page, they create the space. But of course, I didn't have the film when I applied for the funding. Like it was not so much money for a film, for a feature film, but I have the luck to have this experimental section. Like you don't need a script. That probably if you get, I mean, even in France, if you apply for funding, for documentary, you will need to write a script. That for me is like completely ridiculous. No, it's like how you can anticipate something. So it's a way of controlling. Like I understand it's a way of being sure like where the money goes, but at the same time, I feel like if that's something like I'm applying now for the funding of a feature film, and I did the script. I mean, I wrote the script that I don't believe it, but I need to lie, because it's not, the film will be end when I write the script, no? Probably I will follow kind of the same, but I know many filmmakers who are working between the fiction and documentaries, and they need to lie. I mean, that's how you end doing it. I mean, you're not going to make another film, but at least you lie in a way like you can just give the space to change what you wrote. Like it was probably in a place, it was just in your desktop and really abstract. For me, it's really far. So I don't know. For me, it's more easy when I imagine the situation or the details when I'm in the place. So I can write something after, but then the way to articulate it, sometimes depending of the jury, of course, they will, if they are more traditional, they would just consider like your film it's a mistake, and that's a mistake. I mean, like it's not necessarily like that. No. I'm not saying like the traditional way to do films is wrong. It's just saying like that's not the only way. I'm not the first one. I'm not to be the last one to think about it. It's just, I mean, from Brakhage to Belatar, or I don't know, or another filmmakers that they were already thinking about it. So, but the interesting thing now is how we relate with images. That probably is the I feel like now, like, we are more overexposed to images. We can construct a narrative without thinking on the book, no? Or I feel like now it's even more. There's more opportunities because of all the influence we have. So I don't see too much the point now to stick to the 3-act drama. That's my, you know. I mean, Radu Jude, the Radu Jude. I mean, he's playing a lot with how, what he wants to show, how he's structured. So it's refreshing to see that, I think. Maybe I'm speaking as a viewer too, but I think that's different interest. I mean, if you want to go to industry, you need to adapt to some rules. But if you want to play with the rules, of course, it's more difficult to have an industry, no? I don't know. I mean, you pay any price anyway for both. If you choose whatever you want to go.
Gracias, Felipe. Thank you.
Thank you for me.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today, for those logging on or watching this later too. And thank you to all of our youth jury for all the amazing questions. Felipe, thank you for making us part of your process, for being here today, and for coming. We'll be seeing you pretty soon.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to see the festival. Thank you very much. Thank you
You'll
very
love
much.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ana and Felipe. Just want to invite everyone to come watch Open Sky Cielo Abierto on Thursday, September 12th at 2 p.m. at Cineworks, and also Saturday, September 14th at 4:15 p.m. at the Cinematheque, with director Felipe Esparza Perez in attendance. So very exciting. Thank you for joining
Thank you.
today, and see you.
Bye. Thank you.